The stars outside my cell were dim, fractured like shards of broken glass. I had counted them hundreds of times in the hours, days, maybe even weeks. I had lost track of time. Solitary confinement aboard the interstellar penal ship Erebus was designed to strip every prisoner of hope, and it was working perfectly. Until her arrival. I didn't know her name, but the ship's logs had warned me about her. She was an executioner of the Zuran Dominion, a figure as feared as she was beautiful, and known across half the galaxy for never missing a target. Her reputation alone had been enough to make even hardened criminals tremble in their cells. And now she had come for me. The door hissed open, and the metallic echo of her boots made my stomach tighten. She stepped into the dim light, her form angular yet mesmerizing, her eyes like molten silver that seemed to pierce into the deepest corners of my soul. For a moment, I simply stared, frozen. "You're Yaren Kale," she said, her voice cold but smooth, almost melodic. "You've been sentenced to die for treason against the Dominion. You have 1 hour to prepare." I swallowed hard, trying to mask my fear with bravado. "I suppose we all have 1 hour before death, don't we?" Her lips curved into the faintest smirk, and for a moment, I saw something human, flicker behind the ruthless exterior. But then she turned and left without another word, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. The hour passed agonizingly slowly. I paced my cell, remembering the events that had led me here. I had been part of a rebel faction fighting against the Zuran Dominion, a regime that demanded obedience through fear and death. I had stolen classified data that could expose the Dominion's darkest secrets, hoping to ignite a rebellion strong enough to topple them. And now I was caught, stripped of freedom, and marked for execution. When she returned, she didn't come alone. The execution chamber was a stark, circular room lined with the cold steel of machinery I didn't understand. At its center, a single chair was bolted to the floor, my seat of doom. She approached, her eyes never leaving mine. "Sit," she commanded. I complied, gripping the armrests as if they could somehow anchor me against the terror I felt. She circled me slowly, inspecting me as a predator might inspect prey. "You don't seem afraid," she observed almost curiously. "I've been afraid for weeks," I admitted, surprising myself. "But now, I'm just waiting." Her silver eyes flickered. "You have courage, or perhaps foolishness." I wanted to say something clever, but nothing came out. And then, without warning, she activated a device on her wrist. The room hummed, and a holographic display appeared, showing images of colonies, trade routes, military outposts, all connected to the Dominion. "This is why you die," she said softly. "Your actions could destabilize everything we've built." I leaned forward, studying the holograms. "And yet, I've seen more hope in your eyes than in any of this," I said, gesturing to the projection. She stiffened, and for the first time, I sensed hesitation. We didn't speak for a long time after that. She monitored me, almost obsessively, as I tried to understand her. How could someone trained to kill without remorse hesitate now? Something about her was different. Days passed, or maybe hours. The passage of time had become meaningless aboard the Erebus. The more I observed her, the more I realized that her precision, her discipline, her cold efficiency, all of it masked a question, a doubt that she refused to admit even to herself. I took a risk. "Why did they send you?" I asked one evening, when the corridor outside our cells was empty. Surely, someone else could have done this. Her gaze met mine, unblinking. "Because I am the executioner," she said simply. "Because it's my duty to ensure the Dominion's law is enforced." And yet, I pressed, leaning closer through the bars of my cell. "You hesitate. Why?" Her silver eyes softened, and for a moment, I saw something human: exhaustion, sorrow, maybe even fear. "Because," she whispered, "I have never questioned my orders before. But you are different." It was then that I realized the truth. She wasn't just an executioner. She was someone who had been trained to obey, to suppress doubt, to extinguish emotion. And yet something in me, something in the way I had lived, had sparked that dormant humanity. Over the next several days, our interactions became more subtle, more dangerous. Words replaced silence. Conversations replaced commands. I told her about the rebellion, about the people suffering under the Dominion, about the hope that still existed in hidden corners of the galaxy. She listened, often in silence, sometimes with a frown, sometimes with a tilt of her head that suggested she was reconsidering everything she had been taught. And then came the day she made the mistake that could have cost her life. The alarms blared. A faction of rebels, my allies, had breached the ship, aiming to rescue me. Panic surged through the corridors. The executioner, trained to prioritize duty above all else, should have killed me immediately, or at least prevented my escape. But she didn't. Instead, she moved with precision, neutralizing threats without harming me, shielding me from danger, guiding me toward the exit. Every instinct screamed that she was betraying the Dominion, but I didn't stop to question it. I followed, my heart pounding, as we navigated the chaos together. Finally, we reached the ship's hangar. Outside, the rebel fleet waited, engines humming with quiet urgency. I turned to her, expecting anger, betrayal, or at least a cold dismissal. Instead, she looked at me, her expression unreadable, then slowly removed her helmet. Her hair was silver, matching the color of her eyes, and for the first time, I saw her as a person, not as an executioner. "You've changed my mind," she said quietly. I don't know what I am anymore." "Then don't think," I said, extending my hand. "Just come with me." She hesitated, the weight of her duty pressing down on her shoulders. And then, with a deep breath, she took my hand. The jump through hyperspace was disorienting. Stars blurred into streaks, and the hum of the engines resonated through our bones. We didn't speak much. Words felt unnecessary. I could feel her questioning everything she had ever known, and I could feel hope blooming for the first time in years. Eventually she spoke. "I've done terrible things," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "For the Dominion. For orders. For survival. How can I face what I've done?" "By choosing what to do next," I said. "By not letting your past define you." Her gaze met mine, and in that instant, I understood that something fundamental had shifted. She had come to execute me, but instead, she had saved me, defied her masters, and perhaps even herself. And in doing so, she had found the courage to start anew. When we emerged from hyperspace, the rebel fleet opened its communication channels. The faces on the screens were a mixture of astonishment and relief. And then, the question I had feared and hoped for came. "You brought her?" one of my commanders asked. I nodded. "She's one of us now. At least, she wants to be." There was silence on the line. Then, slowly, one voice said, "Then welcome her." Weeks passed. Together, we worked to undermine the Dominion, to plan operations that would protect innocent lives and strike at the heart of oppression. She learned quickly, her skills as an executioner now repurposed for strategy, for defense, for hope. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, we began to trust each other, not just as allies, but as something more fragile, more dangerous, friends. One evening, as we watched the twin suns of a liberated planet sink below the horizon, she turned to me. "I never thought I could feel anything beyond duty," she confessed. But now, I feel something I don't know how to name. Call it hope, I said. Call it freedom, or call it us. For the first time, she smiled, not the faint, fleeting expression I had seen before, but a smile that belonged to her, wholly and entirely. And in that moment, I realized something extraordinary. She had come to execute me, bound by orders, by fear, by duty. But something in the way I lived, the choices I had made, the courage I had shown, had awakened a part of her she had long suppressed. Something changed her mind. And in doing so, she changed the course of our lives, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. As the suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of violet and gold, I understood that life was never about the inevitability of death or the rigidity of orders. It was about the choices we made, the moments we risked everything for, and the people who showed us a different way to live. She had come to end me, but she had given me a chance to survive. And in surviving, we had both been reborn.